by the rivers of Babylon. Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
before this great and mighty King. How's everyone feeling out there? I hope that everyone is well, and I hope that the Most High God will continue to be with our people and continue to protect our people and all their endeavors. I'm thankful to this great King for my life, the life of my loved ones, the life of Yisrael, and I pray that the Creator will continue to be with us all, guide and protect us. I hope that the Creator will continue to nourish us with knowledge, and that He will continue to be with us wherever we might be in the diaspora. It's very important. Very important thing that we must understand is that I've been having these conversations and these been putting up a couple of streams on my Uzi Alewi channel. For all of you that don't know about that channel, you could catch some other content on it. The Uzi Alewi channel. Shabbat Shalom to everyone in the room. My Uzi Alewi channel. If you go there, subscribe to that channel, press the notification button, so because I put a lot of other videos on that channel apart from what the Shabbat, lessons are. You'll catch a lot of the concerts and the things that are happening in Israel. Usually that's where I put that stuff. So I was having a discussion about race and how sometimes some of our people in the diaspora don't look at themselves as being black, because being black is like or calling yourself black. When I mean black, we have I believe that someone categorized the races by the 5 races. You got the Caucasian, Negroid, the Caucasoid, Negroid, you got the Mongolian, and I forgot the other 2. But it was like 5 different I'm just talking about how some people negate their blackness or being black. Speaking about some of our brothers and sisters sometimes from the islands where they speak Spanish, and basically that's a result of colonization. When we say black, They don't want to associate with black, so they'll tell you, I'm not black, I'm Puerto Rican. No, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. No, I'm not black, I'm whatever, I'm Panamanian, I'm Costa Rican. So they don't want to associate with black because black is a stigma, right? But when we talk about black, we talk about a race of people, right? We talking about a race of people. We talking about people that were brought over here on slave ships, you know, from the coast of West Africa. When we speaking about black, we're talking about race. And the boat just took different stops in different ports. You know, when we speak about Deuteronomy chapter, when we speak about Deuteronomy chapter 28, the Most High God said that no people will come, right? He said they will take us and put yokes of irons around our necks, shackles on our feet, right? And they will ship us off. And when they did that, they took us to all these different ports. When we talking about the transatlantic slave trade, and you could connect that with the book of Deuteronomy 28, and that's what identifies us. That's the lesson that most of us, or a lot of us, came in through, because we could see it clear as day that only happened to one people, the so-called Negro, right? The being carried off and being beaten and being sold. These were things that only happened to one people, the so-called Negro, the West Indian, and whatever other names you want to give us. So what happens is, because slavery was so bad, and the stigma that came with slavery was so grievous that no one wants to associate with the word black, right? So when we see, and that's why I said some people, right? Some people from these different islands, they don't want the stigma of being called black because they associate black with black, quote unquote, African Americans, right? Or African Americans. That's what they associate black with being. And my question to them is always, you know, when I speak to them in Spanish. I say, well, when you are in Puerto Rico or you are in Santo Domingo and you look like me, or you in Panama and you look like me, they don't call you blanco, blanco meaning white. They call you negro. Most of them are called negro. And negro, simply put, just means black. So you are from the black race, regardless of how you feel or how you look at it. You see, the stigma of slavery and what the slave master did to our people really did a good brainwashing job as to make them feel as that they are not who they are, or they should aspire to be like the people who oppressed them. You get what I'm saying? You get my drift? So in places like Santo Domingo and places like Puerto Rico or any of these Spanish-speaking places, Brazil, which is considered a quote-unquote Latin place, in these places, what the oppressor did was he made them feel like if they were in Puerto Rico that they should look onto Spain, and that's where their ancestors come from, when in all intent and purposes, yeah, there might be a mixture of people, right? There might be a mixture of different peoples, but looking to Spain or looking to just the European side is what you aspire to be, then you negate all of your heritage that comes from Africa. Right? Because we're not going to play semantics with word, because Israel is located in Northeast Africa. So when I speak about Africa, I'm including Israel and our disbursement through Africa and us ending up in the west coast of Africa and being brought over here on slave ships. So when I say Africa, don't say that I'm saying that we're Canaanites. That's something totally different. Don't say that I'm saying that we're Hamites. That's something totally different. But we were dispersed in Africa, and we were mixed in with those people as early as the 12 sons of Jacob. You get what I'm saying? So those are things that we need to keep in mind. What we need to understand is that what connects us is the way that we look and the prophecy that was left on record that would happen to us. That we know for certain, right? We were shipped to different ports. Now, many more of us, like 90% of us were shipped. I believe about 90% of us were shipped to the Caribbean islands, Central America, and to South America. Only about 400,000 miles here, 400,000, 500,000 slaves was brought to North America, if I'm not mistaken. Give or take, a rough estimate. So the least percentage of our ancestors was brought to North America. But as I was saying, many of us was taken to the Caribbean islands, to Cuba, Puerto Rico, all these islands, you know, depending on who the oppressor was, whether it was the Spaniard, the Portuguese, whether it was the French, whether it was the Englishman. You will know by the islands that speak English or speak French who was the oppressor and who was the slave master that brought people there to serve on the cane fields, on the rice plantations, whatever it was that they brought our ancestors to serve in. So if we look at a place like Santo Domingo, they will scorn at the people that live right next door to them, the Haitians, right? Well, our brothers and sisters from Haiti. And they would look at them and say, no, y'all are Africans. He said, we need a Google Hangouts platform. Well, what we could do is this. I'm going to leave the phone lines open, 347-622-9090, to hear your opinion. If you feel like speaking on this topic, you could call in 347-622-9090. What do you think about this? Because we are scattered throughout the diaspora, like the Most High God said in Deuteronomy 28. Let me go there real quick. Now, I know, Deuteronomy 28 almost becomes like a cliche, right? Because we always touch on it and people, we always Deuteronomy 28 do. But this is our identity card, right? This didn't happen to no people but to us. $28.49 it goes. Don't forget to bring me that drink. Jehovah will bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as the vulture swoopeth down, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. English, French, Spanish, we didn't understand those languages. A nation of fierce countenance, that shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. So back in the South, if you were walking on the sidewalk and you was an adult couple, black couple, and these are during the Jim Crow era, you had to give up a sidewalk to a 6-year-old white kid, right? Get off the sidewalk, let him walk past, and then you could get back on the sidewalk. So, thou shalt not regard the person of the old, nor to show favor to the young. They'll kill old and young. They didn't care. And he shall eat the fruit of thy and he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy ground, until thou be destroyed. That also shall not leave thee corn, wine, or oil, the increase of thy kind, or the young of thy flock, until he have caused thee to perish. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fortified walls come down, wherein thou didst trust, throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which Jehovah thy God have given thee. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thy own body, the flesh of thy sons and thy daughters. So the European Jew don't take claim to that, to cannibalism, but we did that. We see it written in our history. We'll go down to verse 68 of Deuteronomy 28. And Jehovah shall bring thee back into Egypt in ships, by the way whereof I said unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall sell yourselves unto your enemies for bondmen and for bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So this is what happened to us. So we are the children of those people that were brought over. So sometimes we deny our race and who we are. Sometimes we deny who we are because we are ashamed of what we are. So because we get a little admixture, we are more proud of that, whatever it is that admixture is, because undoubtedly many of us might have European blood in us. That's the reality of going through the captivity that our forefathers went through, right? Because of mixture and what happened to us, and our mothers being raped, you know, and all those sort of things, or the slave master having relation with the slave girl and having children with that slave girl. Well, children that were called mulattoes, right? So undoubtedly, some of us have some of that blood in us, but the U.S. had a law called a rule called the one-drop rule, right? That basically said that if you had children, if you had a certain percentage of African blood in you, that you were considered black. So mulattoes, what they call mulattoes or quadroons, were considered black people. What began to happen is that we began to have that separatist mentality, or that mentality that taught us that lighter was better, right? So now I don't want our lighter complected brothers and sisters to get offended, but this, I'm just explaining history, right? Because of what the slave master did to us, he pitted us against each other, right? The mulatto children that were born most likely worked in their homes, and the darker people worked in the field, because the mulattoes 9 times out of 10 were relatives to the people living in the home, but they still worked as slaves, right? As servants in the home. It was that slave master's children. So there began the divide and conquer, into a point where you even have societies, even to this day, that don't allow or societies of people that are called mulattoes, quote unquote, quadroons, that won't mix with darker complected black people. And this has been going on for decades. And they won't mix with Caucasians. They will just mix amongst each others, mulattoes with mulattoes. And they have these different societies, you know. Thus came forth the brown paper bag test, that if you were darker than the brown paper bag, that you couldn't enter certain societies, and so forth and so on. So slave master did a job on us to where we deny who we are, right? So a lot of people in the islands, in the Spanish speaking countries in particular, not so much in the Caribbeans, not so much. So now we have a caller here. You came right into the screen. Thank you.
Yeah, I know, right?
So we have our first caller here. Shalom, shalom. Whom am I speaking to?
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Whom am I speaking to?
Donnell.
Donnell. How do you spell your name?
D-O-N-N-E-L-L.
All right. D-O-N-N-O-L-L.
No, D-O-N-N-E-L-L.
Got you. Donnell. All right. Just like how you say it, that's how you spell it. All right.
Yes. Now, unfortunately, I have a Viking name. But the name describes me a whole lot, but not the Viking part. Just the strong-spirited part.
Uh-huh.
Now, I was listening, me and my husband were sitting here listening to you this evening. I want to thank you for coming on every week. I appreciate that.
Right.
Now, you were talking about races and how people deny their races.
Right.
Like Puerto Ricans.
Right.
Puerto Rican is black. Where did you start from? You started from a Native American and a Spaniard.
Right.
From them, you know, raping the village. Right. You know, taking women. That's how you became Puerto Rican.
Right.
Native American and a Spaniard. Same thing with other races, Dominican, Panamanian, Caribbean. Yes, I know they deny us, but you just had a different stop off the boat. Right. That's it.
Right.
You know, and I know when I was growing up, you know, because I'm a 60s baby.
Right.
As I was growing up, most gentlemen in high school did not, when I was able to be with my mother because she taught me so much, I thank the Most High for her, the
right.
time that I spent with her,
right.
because she was a dark-skinned, beautiful, natural woman.
Right.
And what she had taught me, unfortunately, when I went to high school, brothers didn't like me. They told me I was too black for them. Wow. Not because I'm not dark-skinned.
Right.
I'm not real dark-skinned. I'm brown-skinned.
Right.
I was dark-skinned. You know, that's a beautiful color.
Right.
But because of the knowledge that I have, I was too black for them. They couldn't understand me. I was entirely too deep for them. You know, even when it came to nursery rhymes and everything else, my mother broke it down for me, the real meanings of it, so a lot of people could not speak with me.
Right.
And I found myself trying to fit in with people because, you know, I was young.
Right.
And then when I was even younger, my grandmother raised me. Right. You know, cut Indian, red skin with red hair.
Right.
If you weren't light skinned, you could be a dark skinned man. She loved you.
Right.
But as a brown skin, light skin, or well, a brown skin or dark skinned woman, right. You were disliked. Now she did everything in her power to say, you know, straighten your hair, put on makeup. And we have to realize that a lot of our grandmothers, great-grandmothers, they were born in 1918, you know, 1920.
Right.
They were still enslaved physically and mentally, but right. Mostly mentally. Right. So their thing was to give up their culture, give up their race. So me growing up, I was being taught not to be myself until I went with my mother, right. Who was natural, right. And understood what was going on. And like I said, I thank the Most High for her coming into my life, even though I was a teenager at that time.
Right.
But she filled me with enough knowledge to know to be proud of my heritage, proud of my culture and where I come from. I don't deny who I am, but we have a lot of people who are brainwashed, who are brainwashing their children.
Right.
Who don't want to be who they are. They despise their own color. It's self-hate.
Right.
but they were trained, and they were trained to be that way.
Right.
And even in school today, when my children go to school, whatever I taught them, they'll come home and they'll tell me something the school told them different.
Right.
And this is the whole thing, and everybody is not realizing we need to come together as a people. All people are brainwashed. Some of them we can save, some of them we can't save.
Right.
We need to try.
Right.
And unify and educate.
Right.
You know, but I understand about that, you know, thinking you're different because you come from a different part of the land.
Right.
All of us come from the same place.
Right.
We all from the 12 tribes.
Right. That's right. That's right.
You
And
know,
I agree 100% with that. And I just want to give you one with our brothers and sisters that come from Puerto Rico. They are a mixture of the Taino Indian, the Spaniard, and the Israelite that was brought there as a servant, right? So a lot of them have that admixture, and that's where they come from. And I just want to let everybody know, and you know, as we're speaking about this topic, that's all right. Thank you, my sister. I appreciate your call.
Thank you. You have a great night.
All right.
Chief Uzi.
Shalom.
Shalom.
I just want to say this, right? Because sometimes when we have these conversations, it becomes touchy. I don't want it to be touchy. I want it to be open because we got a lot of people that are listening that might have that, you know, that admixture. And it doesn't make you less Israel than someone who is brown of skin or whatever. Because like I always say, when we look at somebody like Blake Griffin, right, who comes from a father that we would say is an Israelite and a Caucasian mother, if he was to marry into someone, a Caucasian woman, according to us, and not according to us, but according to the Torah, you are what your father is, right? So if he goes deeper into the Caucasian pool and he begins to marry more and more Caucasian, that doesn't matter if the children are what their father is. So you will begin to start having Israelite children that will begin to look more and more and more Caucasian. So I don't get caught up with the race thing, because many, you know, like someone put on the chat, that everybody that's black ain't Israel either. You get what I'm saying? Everybody that's black ain't Israel, but I'm speaking in terms of race. We have race is different than your nationality, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Race is different because at the end of the day, in America, we're having a crisis with race. So if you take a black person from Africa, right, that comes directly from Africa right at this moment, a black person from the Caribbean, a black person from Puerto Rico, Santo Domingo, a black person from America, and you stand them all on the corner, they don't differentiate between us. You get what I'm saying? They look at us and they just say, look at them so and so and so, right? So I don't want it, it's not a dark skin, light skin thing. It's not about that. I just want us to understand, to embrace who we are, no matter how we look. Some of us are going to come lighter complexion. Some of us, do you know that they have that Israelites was brought over to Mexico? Many of us don't know that history. You know what I mean? That we think that that everybody in Mexico is just an Aztec or you know, whatever. No, there's a town in Mexico right now that have descendants of Israelites that were brought there, that mixed in with the Aztecs and whoever, you know, the indigenous people of Mexico was. And when you look at them, they just look like, you know, people with melanin but they just look, I don't even know how to describe it. What we will call, and I know this might be a derogatory term, but people that we might call like coolie people. right? That's how they look like. So we need to understand all these things, and we can't make, I'm not the type that likes to make everything racial, but I do like to stand for the rights of our people, and I hate when people deny who they are. It's like, I was born in Panama, right? Some people will say, well, you Panamanian. And then I ask them, what is a Panamanian? All right, so by law, nationality-wise, you know, if we play by the rules of society and whatever, I am a Panamanian. I was born in Panama. Whoever was born in America is an American. But we know better than that. But just for argument's sake, we know better than that as Israel because we claim Yisrael. I know that part. Let's not go crazy over this. But I always tell people, I said, yes, you look at me and you say I'm Panamanian. I said, but what connects me with you is that the first thing that people see when they see us, that's the connection, right? People don't know. If I didn't tell you I was born in Panama, you will never know that I'm a quote-unquote Panamanian. So those are all the different things that we face and the different things that we see. You know, when we get to this thing about admixtures and people mixing and how much percentage of what you are and what we are, just acknowledge and know that we Yisrael. And when God and when the Most High God opened up our eyes, that's who we became. We became the children of Israel. My teachers always taught me that no matter where you came from, and you can't have, and we can't look at brothers and sisters that come from a certain region, right? Or that families might come from a certain region, and they don't necessarily look like your depiction of what an Israelite should look like, right? That's your description of what an Israelite should look like, and say you're not Israel. We can't do that because we don't know. We don't know. We truly don't know. I'll give you an example. We look at King David, Melech Dawi, right? Melech Dawi married or had a wife that was a Sidonian. He had Absalom with her. Melech Dawi himself, his lineage came from the Moabites. Right? When we think about Ruth and then what was my man's name? Ruth and the story of Ruth. I lost my thought, but I believe that was Melech Dawi's great grandfather who went into Ruth, and they had who? Obed, Jesse, you know, and then Melech Dawi. So these were like different nations, right? Boaz, right? Boaz. Ruth and Boaz. And then I think they had Obed. I believe it was Obed. And then Yeshaiah, which is Jesse. And then Jesse had his sons, and Melech Dawi was one of them. Everybody throwing up the Boaz, Boaz. Thank you, family. Boaz, thank you. Yeah, so we can't get caught up on this, but don't deny who you are. That's my point. Like, don't deny who you are. Love who you are. Embrace who you are. We come in different shades, colors, hair textures. We come speaking differently. One thing that Israel has taught me and my teachers taught me, It don't matter where you come from. We have to come to. You see, the problem that we have as a people is that the people that we were under, they did a fine job in keeping us separate and keeping us divided. What do I mean by that? This is what I mean by that. You come from the Caribbean islands and they make you feel like you're better than the brother and sister that's in the States. And that's not true, because you don't know the struggle. Nobody knows each other's struggle, and we tend to be cliquish, right? We tend to be cliquish because we stick with the people we feel more comfortable with. But you might be a more kindred spirit with someone that was born here, and not so much with the person that was born in the island you was born in. You get my drift? But because you don't come out of that comfort zone and meet other people, then you don't get to know other people, because you have your preconceived notions about people that the people that wanted to keep us divided put in your brain. So therefore we stay separate, because we don't look to mingle with each other because, oh, they speak with a funny accent, or they do this or they do that. That's not the way we're supposed to be. We Yisrael. We're supposed to come together. You know what I mean? Oh, he don't look like, I don't think he's an Israelite. He don't look like an Israelite. Nah. Get what I'm saying? So we need to be on top of that. We need to understand that, and we need to embrace what we are about. We need to embrace our people, Yisrael, wherever we might be in the diaspora. If you want to chime in on the topic, 347-622-9090. And now this comes back to the point that we were speaking about last week, which we talk about a mamzer, right? Because some people say that a mamzer is a mixture, an admixture, right? If an Israelite marries someone of another nation, that's what I'm just giving you some of the interpretations of what some people say. Some people say that a mamzer is a child that's born from an Israelite mother and a foreigner or a Gentile, right? So those are different, and also a child out of wedlock. Those are the different known definitions that I've seen. But, you know, last week I spoke about certain things, you know, child out of wedlock. Is that really a mamzer, or is that the English definition of what a mamzer, or what they call a bastard, right? It was described as a bastard, right? It's a child born out of wedlock, but is a mamzer, did they use the right word to describe a bastard? Ima Havaret. Shalom, Ima, how are you?
Shabbat Shalom, Chief. Praise the Most High Yah for life and for this holy Shabbat day. I had two questions.
Kane.
Okay, the first one is I understand how we follow and understand that the bloodline is through the man.
Right.
Well, what was Mother Sarah's role in this? Because Abraham had a child by another woman, but he was rejected. But it was Mother Sarah who received the blessing, and she got her hay of reveal just like Abraham did, and they both had children. So that means that, I don't know what that means. That's why I'm asking the question. That's the first question. What was Mother Sarah's role? Why did her child, it was her child who received the bloodline, not somebody else?
So, my explanation for that is just like what happened with Edom and with Esau and Yaakov. They came from the same mother and father, but the Most High God said, 2 manner of nations shall be within your womb, right? And God separated it from then. You get what I'm saying? So with Ishmael, what some of the explanations that you get is that, one of the explanations that one of my teachers used to give is that Ishmael was born when he was Avram, right? before he was made unto Avraham. Right? That was one of the explanations. And basically, they were separated, you know, because the seed came through, you know, God told him that the seed will come through Sarah. You know what I'm saying? And her name was also changed. So that's basically what that is. But they're all children of Abraham. They're all Hebrews. You know, so but when we look at lineage, or we look at genealogy in Torah, right? When we look at lineage or genealogy, it's always called by the men. It's never called by the woman. So, for example, when we look at, like I gave the example of Melech Dawid, he had a son with a Sidonian, and that son was Absalom. But Absalom was known as an Israelite. You had, I'm trying to give you, Judah. Tamar was a Canaanite. She was a Canaanite woman, right? And she had Pharez and what was the other boy's name? I got it right here.
I guess what I'm saying is
and Serak.
Okay. So I agree with that. I guess I was just trying to figure out why is it only the man, because I know that Sarah and even the other Sarah, Yitzchak's wife, and they all went back to their own bloodline to get their wives. So I guess that's the only reason why I asked that question. So thank you for explaining that to me. My other question is, well, not so much a question, but just a statement. I guess with Mamzir, for me,
right,
it's not so much that the person is a foreigner, but it's the person that's practicing outside covenant that makes the difference with the Mamzir. Yeah, even if a male goes and get, well, I guess a woman, she shouldn't. She can only marry an Israelite man. But if a man goes and get a foreign woman, since the bloodline is only through the man, if a man goes and get a foreign woman, then she needs to come under the covenant. She can't just be out there swinging and doing whatever she wants to do. Is that right?
Yeah, I agree with that, because there came a point in our history where the Most High God told us, get rid of all your strange women and the children that they had. He told us like that. So it's sometime down in the prophecy, because we was out of control. God said, get rid of them foreign women and get rid of them children, them strange children that you, well, he didn't call them strange. He just said, get rid of them children that you had with them, right? Because they were just too far gone. It didn't mean that those children were in Israel, but the Most High God was almost doing a cleansing and a purging. And he equated it to, they are causing you to sin, right? That's the way I look at it. Like, the Most High was like, they are causing you to sin, so get rid of them and come back to me. You get what I'm saying? So we also see that in the Tanakh.
Okay. Right. Well, Torah Chief, appreciate the understanding.
All right, Shalom.
You're welcome.
Shabbat Shalom. You have to mute your computer or your TV.
Mute it. Did you mute it? Okay. Shalom?
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Who am I speaking to?
You're speaking to Imam Shakora.
Hey, what's up, Imam? How you doing, Safta?
Okay, I'm good. Now, there's two Imam Shakoras.
Oh, I thought this was Safta. And I seen a Jersey number, so I'm not talking with Safta.
Over here.
I'm not talking with
Safta. You know who I am.
I do? Oh, yeah, I do. I do know who you are.
Okay.
I know exactly who you are.
Okay. Well, I wanted to talk about the word race, okay?
Right.
Now,
Let's
back
talk
in the
about
day, I had a book about, a European man came up with that concept. The Most High made the human race. And the human race was divided into nations.
Right.
And so, but the guy who made that, you know, terminology and what it is, it's a division. It's a divisive tactic. Because look what happens. You know, oh, what race are you? You know, it's more confusing. And we know from the Torah that the Most High made families, and then families were nations. And even when we have Shem, Ham, and Japheth, okay? Shem and my goodness, Ham, okay? From what we call today the continent of Africa. But there's different nations. Africa's a continent. People speak of Africa as if it's, you know, a nation. But it's a continent with different nations. And we have to remember that. So, but when we put in the word race in there too, then we, you know, everybody's against each other. I'm not this, you know, because I hear some people say, I'm not no African, or you're not Ham, we're Shem. But we need to know that. We're talking about nationality here. And we got all these confusing thoughts. But just think about it. What do you think?
No, I know that it was a German guy, I forgot the guy's name, who created the concept. There were 5 different races, you know. But just for a sense of, to something that people could understand, right? I use that terminology. I mean, I know better than that, but just for people to understand, you know, like we identify with being black. Like we're looked at globally as being black people, right? So it's just an identification. Now, us as Israel, we know we not black. We are we're Israel, and we live a certain way of life, and Israel could come at any color. From one end of the spectrum, from one end of the color spectrum to the other, right? We could come light, so light, almost white but not quite, to
But see, that's so where we get in the mix. I can't hear, you know, because the mix up. Because like you said, you know, when we say black people and we're a different spectrum of colors, however, it's confusing to people, it's confusing to our children, you know. Can you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear. I'm listening to you.
Okay.
I'm listening to you make your point.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Ima, thank you for the call.
Oh, okay. And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So there you go. So I don't want to confuse anyone, but I think it's good to open up these topics so that we could get clarity amongst us, right? I think I started out with people denying who they are, right? That's a whole nother thing in itself, right? Because when marches and things go on, when things happen to where like someone's civil rights is violated or whatever, you know, I use those terms because those are the common terms that are used, right? They use African American, they use, you know, this, that, and the other. Now they got this Afro-Latino, you know, they got a lot of different terms and terminology that they're using, and what do we fall under? And at the end of the day, like the sister said, we are the human race, right? We are Israel, but we also fall today under the category, let's not kid ourselves, we fall under the category of black people, right? So we have to understand that part, and that's all I'm saying. I understand clearly what we are, who we are, and what we're supposed to be doing. But sometimes these topics are difficult. I understand, like, these topics sometimes could be a bit confusing, right? They could be a bit confusing, but we got to discuss them so that we get clarity and all the things that surround us and the things that are around us, right? And that's all. That's all I want us to do, is get some clarity, to get some understanding about where we stand and the things that we do, right? As a people, how we carry ourselves and how we conduct ourselves. How we conduct ourselves. We are all God's people at the end of the day. and we have to and we just have to acknowledge that, right? That we're God's people, and that's the bottom line. So let me read some of these comments. Kawa says, people fall for divide, conquer every day. When I was 18, a Jamaican lady was shocked I was African American simply because I behaved, talked like a normal person. Let's judge people as individuals, fam. Okay, that's right, through Sarasa. Ima Naomi, Isha Chief Elazar Henningham. Oh, how you doing, Princess Naomi? Good to see you in the room. Shabbat Shalom. My opinion, we don't have birth certificates saying Israel. As long as we keep law and know who the Most High King is and observe the laws, just cross over. Okay, that's good. Shabbat Shalom, Ima Elishadai. Everybody, give a big Yom Hulated to Ima Elishadai. She celebrated the big 6-0 this past week. So everybody just give us some birthday love to Ima Elishadai. Shabbat Shalom once again. All right. Ma T Yahoo Levy. Shabbat Shalom once again. Our race is Hebrew. Our nationality is Israelite. Okay. So we come from the Hebrew race. That's what he's saying. And our nationality is Israelite. Okay, I can live with that. Daffy J. Sorry to interrupt, Chief, but when it comes to lineage, it can't just be through the man. Alai in 1 Chronicles 2, verse 31 to 35 was a woman that continued the line, and she married an Egyptian. All right, let's go there. 1 Chronicles 2, 31 to 35. Let's see what's going on here. All right, let's start from 30. And the sons of Nadab, Seled and Apim. But Seled died without children. And the sons of Apim, Ishi. The sons of Ishi, Shishan. And the sons of Shishan, Alai. And the sons of Yada, the brother of Shemaiah, Yeter and Yonatan. And Yeter died without children. And the sons of Yonatan, Peletz and Sasa. These are the sons of Yeramil. Now Shishan had no sons but daughters. And Shishan had a servant, an Egyptian, whose name was Yara. So Shishan gave his daughter to Yara, his servant, to wife, and she bore him Attai. And Attai begot Natan, and Natan begot Zabad, and Zabad begot Eplal, and Eplal begot Obed, and Obed begot Yehu, and Yehu begot Azariah, and Azariah begot Kelez, and Kelez begot Eliasah, and Eliasah begot Sisamai, and Sisamai begot Shalom, and Shalom begot Yakamiah, and Yakamiah begot Elishama, and the sons of Caleb. All right, so that generation was just an Egyptian generation. That's not they were not a Israelite generation, you know. Regardless of who was in the genealogy, is just showing what happened in the count, you know. That was an Egyptian genealogy. That's all that was. But when we look clearly at Torah and who are, for example, sometime in the prophecy, right, when the children of Israel were coming back, and there was a group of men that came back and said they were priests, and they asked them for their paperwork, and because they couldn't produce their paperwork, they were put to the side and they were deemed to be polluted until the paperwork was able to be produced. So, yeah, this might have happened. He might have had no sons, and he gave his daughters to his Egyptian servant, but that offspring that came out of there wasn't an Israelite offspring. It was an Egyptian offspring. That's all. Shama, if Hagar being an Egyptian was key, then being a Hebrew woman also carries the bloodline. I had a question, Chief, regarding those Israelites. We don't have a congregation in their city or state. Is it acceptable for us to congregate online with congregation like D.C.B. or Shema? Shabbat Shalom. Yeah, I mean, it's acceptable unless you're going to make the effort to open up a place I mean, let me first say this. If you're in some remote area and you know you can't get out to a congregation, that's what this was created for. If you live within the radius of a congregation, and now I'm not going to send you to any congregation. I'm not going to send you to a congregation that doesn't worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob alone, right? But they add other things. I wouldn't recommend you to go there. I would not put that on myself and tell you to go there, because what's going to happen is you're going to come out of there confused. But if you live within the radius of a congregation that only worships the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, then go out and congregate. But if you live in some remote area, you can't get out every week. You got elders that are, some of them are homebound or can't make it out every week. This is the platform for you. These are the type of platforms for you. You come, you listen, and it's a blessing. And may God bless you. Kawa, good point. Folks need to understand that Israelites are not denying their blackness in the same way that a race hater denies it. Totally different motives. All right, here we go. Happy birthday, Ema. I agree with that. We come from the Hebrew race. Yes, have Avra Yisrael through Kawabarisha. To congregate mean a gathering of peoples, so you have to congregate. Leviticus 23, verse 2 and 3. But there is no congregation where you at, so I don't know my brother Malachi. So that's what I'm saying. Like, unless you're going to start one on your own, unless you're going to create one on your own, or you're going to start with your family and, you know, you start gathering people or start inviting people over and create a congregation, that's also a viable option. And if you need brothers like myself or other brothers to come in and help you and teach you how to do that, then we will have to make a way to do that to help those brothers and sisters out who those brothers and sisters out who need that help, if you have that in your heart. But before you start teaching people, you need to get a basic idea and a fundamental idea of what an Israelite is and what is it that we teach, because you don't want to mislead people. So it's good to be under the tutelage of some teachers first, so that you could get your feet firm on the ground, and then you begin to share this knowledge with people. But we're all able to teach God's people because we're put here to do that. The Most High said that in the future we should be priests to the nation. It's talking about the nation of Israel, not just the tribe of Levi, but the nation of Israel. So those are the things that we work on. So anybody out there that wants to start a congregation, right? If the Most High God puts it in your heart, then you need to commune with God, get a certain kind of understanding, get a certain kind of knowledge, right? And then start bringing people in. Start telling people about this is how you test it out. When you speak to people, you see how much you know, right? So when you begin to speak to people about this way of life, you see from what you're telling them, how they react to it. And then they react and you invite them over. Hey, come over this program, and then you start reading with them. And you start going back and forth. And that's how you build, little by little, pebble by pebble, rock by rock, and that's how you do it. But it has to be in your heart to be that type of person, or to be that teacher, to spread the truth and to bring people in. And when you bring them in, just don't bring them in so that they can listen to us. Eventually, what you've learned through the years, you could begin to start a class, right? And then if you need one of us, you could give me a call. You could give, if you want a brother to come to where you're at, we make the arrangement. We come, we teach, we speak to the people. You begin to gather more people, and we give you the tools that you need. We might create some flyers and some pamphlets for you, so you could go, you could recruit more people. And once you start bringing people in, people bring people in. And that's what happens. And that's how you form, that's how you do a congregation. But make sure that you have your, that you are set on solid ground, not on a shaky foundation, because you don't want to mislead people. Okay, so what do we have here? I think that, what did I do here? I think I messed up over here. Okay. I think I was stuck there for a second. All right. So people, no more calls. I guess we all good on this subject, or we lost on this subject, right? So how many do it take to be congregational assembly? I really don't know. I mean, I know it said we should congregate. We should have a holy convocation. So I guess it's what's in your heart, what your family, whatever, is it is what it is. And I feel like if you're tuning in and if you're following the prayer, that's why I always stress it's important when we're praying that you stand up and pray, right? Make yourself a part of the service. Don't just sit down in front of your computer and we're praying, and you sitting down in front of the computer and you're not praying. You have to feel the part of the service so that you could be in the service, right? I know some people that, there are some people in some islands that we know of that gather. Quite a few of them gather. They look at us and then they have discussions. Right? At the break, whatever, they have discussions, and that's their way of doing it because they still learning. Right? So that's the way that they learn. But eventually, you don't have to continue to look at us. You might want reference on something. You might want to come back. But then once you have a gathering of people, you begin to teach the people because you've been put in that position. No problem. Yeah, I would love to visit some of these places. I've been invited to places, and how do we start? You start people start by recruiting, by spreading the word out, by letting people know. And that's how you start. It's not like a rocket science to this. It's not like any set format of doing it. It's if it's in your heart, you go out and you, as they say, you proselytize, and you gather people. And proselytizing don't mean you got to stand on a street corner and do it. Although some people choose to do it that way, but sometimes the one-on-one sessions, people get it. You know, you pull people in, you let people know, and that's how you do it. You know, and that's how you do it. So it's different ways now. You got social media is opening up conversations and how people flow. You know, all those things are part of it. You know, and you got brothers that go out in the streets, and they've gathered a lot of people, you know, throughout the years that way. Unfortunately, a lot of it has to do with, you know, with the other guy, you know, but you know what they do is pretty, you know, they've been doing that for years. That just never been our type of style. So we kind of have more of an outreach online with people when we do the live shows. That's why I always, you know, I always stress to people, share it to your social media. Many of us is social media. If you share it to your social media, you are probably attracting a person every week. And a person every week, that's 52 people in a year. You know what I mean? So when you do that, you know how many times I have people say, tell me that, hey man, my brother started looking at this because they I shared it to my Facebook, so my brother say he looks at it. All right, let's see. Shabbat Shalom. Who am I speaking to? Hey, Shalom, Guerrero Ora. How you doing? Shabbat Shalom.
Okay. I had to take off the sound so I could figure out what's going on.
Okay.
I'm just tuning in. I was doing something else.
Okay.
Is the question what constitutes a congregation?
That was one of the questions in the chat that people were asking, like, what exactly do they have to do in order for it to be a congregation? People were saying that if being online basically is that congregating, or does it have to be a physical congregation, or you know, so forth and so on.
Well, it depends on how you, what is what's referred to in the Torah is a physical congregation. It's not meeting in your house. We live in a situation where we're not in our best position.
Right.
But the reason I called was because the one thing that should be done before you decide to, quote unquote, create a congregation is to study.
Absolutely.
It takes 1 year just to go through the Torah.
Right.
And so if you're going to, if it is your desire to become a teacher,
right,
you need to put in the time of studying. And you do need to get under someone, you know, not rely on your own understanding.
Right.
And I say this because the Most High holds you responsible.
Right.
When you step out as a teacher, the Most High holds you responsible, and He said so.
Right.
So it would behoove anyone who is interested in setting up a congregation to first study.
Study, that's right.
And put in some time. And I'm not talking about 15 minutes. Put in some time so that you know what you're talking about. You don't mislead people.
Right.
I mean, you can always sit down and have discussions and debates about the Torah and about what's going on and what it means and so on and so forth. That's not having a congregation.
Right.
And if you're in a position or in a place where there is no place for you to go, then it would be a good idea to
tune in to the services that are available online, because you get an opportunity just to worship. You know, the Torah is, the Shabbat is supposed to be about glorifying and worshiping the Most High.
That's right.
We get off into a lot of things because of our, because of our situation. We get involved in lots of things that are not necessarily what we need to do. And of course, each congregation has their own minhag, their own ceremonies and things.
Right.
But the main focus is the Torah.
The Torah,
and you can't teach Torah until you know Torah.
Until you know Torah, that's right.
So it's very important. It's a very dangerous. You know, if you're in a position where it's just you and your family, then the Most High sees all and knows all.
Right.
You learn, you study, do what you can. You know, do what you can. It's like it's like we're here in this land. We're not home.
Right.
So we do what we can.
Right.
You know, we can't go up to Jerusalem.
Right.
We go up to the places that we set aside, which the Most High mentioned in the Torah.
Right.
So anyone that is interested in being a teacher, like any other teaching profession, you have to study. You have to learn. You need to know your skill before you can teach your skill.
Right.
And when you're talking about Torah, that's a very dangerous place to be, to step out into if you're not qualified.
Right.
And I'm not talking about somebody comes and tells you, okay, I think you're qualified. I'm talking about you putting in the time and the study, you know, because the Most High will hold you responsible. I've been doing this for many, many years, and I'm here to tell you, I've seen the Most High hold people responsible.
Right.
For stepping out there. So, on the one hand, don't be deterred if your mind and heart is toward doing the Torah and the law, do it. All you have to do is do it.
Right.
But when you're talking about teaching it to a congregation, then you better get yourself prepared to be the teacher of a congregation, because
right.
it's not as easy as it seems.
Right.
It's a very, very important and difficult job. So I would encourage anyone, don't be deterred. If the Most High has blessed you to know His name, don't turn your back on Him.
Right.
You don't want to go there.
Right.
But also, don't be foolish. Don't go out and teach. You can't teach a person to be an engineer if you don't know engineering.
That's right.
And so that's what you need to do.
That's what you need. That's right.
And there are many places. There are a lot of congregations around the United States in particular that have been around for a while. They have, you know, we're about to celebrate our centennial.
Right.
And so there are a lot of congregations which have different customs, but they're all about teaching law, Torah. And so if you're interested, you can always contact, I'm sure through D.C.B. you can contact
right.
any congregation. There are congregations in the South, there are congregations in, well, I don't know what you call Ohio.
Ohio, Cincinnati.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Ohio.
Yep.
You know, and I have worshiped with them.
Okay.
In the past, you know, so you have to pursue the knowledge.
Right.
Pursue the knowledge before you try to spread the knowledge.
Right.
And get it under your belt. And in the meantime, practice what you know. Do what you know.
Right.
Okay? That's what I wanted to say.
Toda Ima. Those are pioneers there. When they call in, those are people that been around for, we talking almost 50 years of being in knowledge of themselves. That's, you know, that's a long time. So Ima Ora is talking about you know, you have to be prepared, just like how I said. Be prepared, use us as reference, and then if it's in your heart, you do what you got to do. But you know you always have people that you could call, and you could and one thing that one of my teachers told me, Chief Elazar, his son Shama Elazar is on. Chief Shama is on with us. He used to tell us all the time. He used to stress to us. He used to tell us, stay in the first 5 books. His exact quote was, if you was like stranded on an island and you had nothing but the Torah, you make it. You all right. You don't need nothing else. He said you don't need no prophecy. You don't need no apocrypha. You don't need nothing else but the Torah. That's what he used to tell us. That's how he used to get us when we was young, to just stay in the Torah and read the Torah. And that's how we became men like him, Chief Amos, Prince Poor, Chief of Chiefs, you know, all the teachers that helped us, shaped us when we was young, to kind of stay on the path of just keeping the Torah and understanding Torah. He was a stickler for that, you know what I mean? So those are the things that we think about, you know what I mean? Those are the things that we think about, and that we look at, you know what I mean? So Torah is very important. Torah is what we need. Torah is what we need to strive to do, and Torah is what we need to strive to understand. So once we get brothers that are willing, you know, I do have to say that those brothers, those Messianic brothers, they have, you know, you got to give credit where credit is due, that they do have a more of a format, you know, to do these type of things. Because what they do is they don't, you know, they get people to contact them. They open up a place, you know, in somebody's house or something. They kind of set them up. They already kind of got their teachings online, and the person, depending on how dedicated the person is on that end, you know, and usually it's like a young recruit, somebody who's gun-ho, who really likes the, you know, whatever it is that they have going on. And, you know, it's a hit or miss. Sometimes the person takes on the responsibility and runs with it and does well, and then sometimes they start out, then they fizzle, you know. So, you know, those are the type of things that happen. So those are the things. Princess Hannah, I think you're way behind the conversation. She's like she's just putting Boaz up there. So she's like way at the beginning of our conversation. We were about ready to wrap it up. She must have woke up late. And she just caught it. She put it from the beginning. So I don't know if anybody else has anything else to say. I like these open forums, these open discussions, because it just don't, sometimes, yeah, it's okay to teach something, but when we have an open forum, open discussion, we kind of get to build more. And we kind of get a little bit more understanding. I believe, at least, that we get a little bit more understanding that way. So I'm glad to see that everybody calls in. And we speak and we build on certain things. That's beautiful. So everybody's giving Garel Ora her kudos, which, you know, she spoke on a lot of things, and a lot of things were, you know, what she said were absolutely, everything that she said was absolutely right, and that sort of stuff. So for next week, what do y'all want to discuss next week? Now, I'm not going to discuss, no, in fact, I'm not going to leave that out there. No, I'm not asking that question. I'll come up with the topic. Because y'all crazy. Y'all going to have me over here crazy. And I'm not going through that. And I know some of y'all going to still write down a topic for next week. But I'm not making no promises as to those topics. I'm not making any promises. So just want to say this, as Guevara Ora mentioned, the Israelite community here in New York City and throughout, because when we talk about commandment keepers in Harlem, under the tutelage of Rabbi Matthew, he opened commandment keepers in the year 1919. So this upcoming year in the Gregorian calendar, we are about ready to celebrate 100 years in the month of August, from August 12th to the 19th. There's going to be a series of events happening, and culminating with the Shabbat day. We're going to have a commercial out. We're going to have separate things out. So if you don't know about it, you can start making your plans on it to come up to New York City. We also looking at our Unity Shabbat in May, like we always have. And, you know, we have to, you know, when Rabbi Matthew did what he did, a lot of us broke away from that tradition, but that's still the tree that most of us came from, right? And then it branched off into different congregations and people who broke away from that kind of tradition, but still their teachers were people that came from there, and they themselves came from there, so therefore we're part of that tree. You know, Rabbi Matthew taught that the children of Israel were the scattered people, were the so-called Negro, you know, and all those things. All right, here we go. Here we go. Remove. And let's that person in timeout. Here we go. Troll alert. Thank you. So, that's it. I don't have time for it tonight. I'm tired. So I'm not even going to go through all of it tonight. Sorry. So, like my brother Shama, Chief Shama put up there, nowhere is it written in the Holy Scriptures, the Old Testament, of the existence of Jesus or the disciples or any one of those people. We only follow the laws that Moses brought down from the mountain, and that God gave unto Moses, said that was written with the finger of God. We only follow the Old Testament, the Holy Scriptures. We do not follow the New Testament because we do not believe that the word, not that we don't believe, we know that the word of God is not in the New Testament. And how do we know that? Because nowhere in the New Testament does it say, thus saith the Lord, or the Lord commanded, or thus saith the Lord, or thus saith the Lord. That you only find, the commandments of God, you only find in the Old Testament, the first 5 books, which we call the Torah. So that's what we follow. That's the manuscript that we follow. And we don't add to the word of God, and we don't diminish aught from it. So that's that. So once again, Todah for everyone for joining me tonight. I'm glad to have y'all on every week. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to let people know that we're on, and that that we're on every Shabbat night. And don't forget to join us tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. On the same channel. So hopefully I get to see everyone there tomorrow night. Tomorrow morning, I mean. And may the Most High God bless each and every one of you. Shalom, shalom, everyone. Have a good night's sleep. Hallelujah. Shalom Aleichem.